Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahaihi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So verse 6, basically it's going to talk about, it's what was talking about the whole manifestation, how it happens from that Brahman. You have Avyakta or Hiranyagarbha, and then from Hiranyagarbha all the other elements come in, and from there all the jivas come in, and the language they use was that Brahman as though enters that every jiva, but then he explained that it's not really entering, it's like there within you, that's what it means, so, and that factor is that Brahman that is within you. That's where kind of just a nutshell, and then when we read Swamiji's commentary, more things will open up. Okay, Meeraji, go ahead. Meeraji, go ahead. Yeah.
He, Mumuksu, who beholds him, Hirangarbhya, seated within the 5 elements, who was born of tapas of Brahma, who was created before the waters, who entered the cave of the heart and stayed there, that Mumuksu verily sees Brahman. This is verily that Brahman which thou hast asked for. The theory of creation is a knotty problem in the literature of the Upanishads. Modern book grazers and hasty students of the Upanishads come to the fantastic conclusion that intuitive understanding is not true, since these sacred books have self-contradicting theories to explain the how and whence of the world's creation. No two Upanishads concur among themselves as regards the details of the process by which creation has taken place. Each Upanishad explains to us in its own inimitable style a method and a process. Each of them in itself has a charm of its own and can give the student a convincing explanation quite satisfactorily till the same student comes to read and understand a totally different process expounded by another Upanishad.
So basically what they are trying to say is, when it comes to theory of manifestation, there are many different ways they have approached it, and it looks contradictory, but the whole idea is to take that journey to that Tattvamasi. You are that. किसी को कोई चीज अपील करती है, किसी को कोई चीज अपील करती है. That's one way of looking at it. And then other way of looking at it, it's explained many different ways, and in the end you read all of it and come, okay, you see the similarities. You know what I'm saying? A lot of different things will happen, but one thing is for sure, you cannot take just the word meaning or just a superficial meaning in Upanishad, because you will be in big trouble. So because it's taking you to an inward journey, and that's why Upanishad traditionally was after somebody has read all the Vedas and all, then the last part is Upanishad, right?
Yeah.
The student is very, very, it's like a PhD in there. But anyway, we are trying to catch it another way. But at least if we do it with open mind, that's what is going to help us. Don't get stuck with things, and if something is not gelling in your head, give it a little time, I would say. Think about it, meditate upon it, ask questions, There are so many saints and sages explanation, like there are on YouTube now, you can literally get, suppose you get totally stuck on this, listen to 3 different Swamis on this particular, you'll get it. Because some people approach all different ways how to explain, and then you'll get it,
The Upanishad rishis, in their firm understanding of the truth, could not take the problem of creation with any seriousness at all. They knew in their wisdom that this manifested world of names and forms is but a delusion created by the human mind. The world has only as much reality as our dreams have. But the rishis knew at once that to the seeker who had approached them, steeped as he was in the impressions created by his own delusions, in his early stages, the world is absolutely real. Each student is to be delicately and softly raised to the higher realms of knowledge from the state in which he finds himself at the time of his approach to the Guru.
See how Swamiji explained it so beautifully, and whoever has done Mandukya knows this कि भाई जब कोई चीज ऑलरेडी ड्रीम जैसी है तो उसको तुम कोई भी अप्रोच ले लो, क्या फर्क पड़ता है. Loosely talking. And you know, I was, while she was Meera ji was reading this, I was thinking about the what you call Santa Claus, right? When we tell our children, they believe it is real, so we have to play along, you know. And oh, चिमनी से आता है, अभी किसी घर में चिमनी नहीं होएगी तो क्या बोलेगा वो? Oh, I'm going to leave the back door open, he's going to come from there, you know. Something like that. Huh? So these saints and sages who have reached the highest, हमारा दिल बहलाने के लिए they might say this approach, that approach, you know. That's one aspect. And the other aspect, I look at it, there is some law and order within that prakriti. It's not like it's totally lawless or anything like that. But how you explain can be different for different people, because it depends on the student, depends on what they understand. And Swami is going to say that in next couple of verses. So when they do take different approaches, it's not like they are trying to confuse you, but exactly opposite. They are trying to catch every kind of mind over there and take them to the higher level. That's all they are trying to do by talking about. Because in the beginning, we all get very, very curious. How was this world created? And I think it's Sarva Priyananji who said that there is one American or some Western philosopher, he said, he explained the best way. He said that God was sitting alone, and he said he started getting bored and he wanted to, have some fun. So he created many, but he created such a great game that even he forgot that he was playing. Okay. Something, I cannot say exact words, but, or he can say that he created many images of himself. He just wanted to have a little fun, just like we go for a movie.
Yeah, it's for kids. He was trying to explain to the kids.
Yes. But it's for us also, it is a...
The kids understand better than the adults when they speak like that.
Yes, absolutely, I think in Bal Vihar, like sometimes, when we in the teachers meeting, I teach the 10th grade, so they are much older. But sometimes they will say such cute things, the little kids, and the teachers will share. Some wisdom they will say, We adults also don't think about it. They get it, So, yeah, it's a lot of fun, yeah.
Yeah, I think that the Santa Claus analogy that you did for this one, Umaji, was very well done. Suddenly clarified the situation.
That what they're talking about. Good. I'm glad.
Okay. Again, no two students are of the same temperament, culture, attitude, or aptitude. The teacher learns the nature of each student through patient and close observations and classifies him according to his temperament.
I mean, here there are so many teachers sitting, professors sitting, Meeraji and so many others who have taught and all that. So that you have students are all different, and each class, each year, how it's going to go, you don't know, because it depends on the students, and you have to adjust. The teacher has to adjust according to the student. If you really are a good teacher, you're not going to be like a tape recorder, keep spitting out, what you want to say. No, you will adjust accordingly. That's what the Upanishads are doing.
The great rishis explain to each type a particular myth explanation for the myth world. The authors of the Upanishads were not in the least serious about their explanations of a non-existent world. Whatever be the explanations given and processes elaborated, to explain the creation of the world, each master had to lead the student ultimately to a state of pure consciousness, viewed from the absolute nature of which the creation had actually never taken place, except in the deluded Jiva's own mind.
This is like so close to the Mandukya Upanishad, this statement, because we are Ajatvad, if anybody remembers that, like very die-hard non-dual he's talking about. But, it's hard to grasp it because अपने को अभी भी world बहुत ज़्यादा real लगता है. लेकिन we have to just trust them that there is a higher reality. उसके सामने ये dream जैसा ही है. And one of the way I look at it, that whatever has happened in our past becomes like a dream like.
Yeah.
And when we quit this world, in 1 second, when we are crossed that line and gone to the other world, it's gone, this one, for us. We may think it's so real, this, that, but that kind of vichar we have to do, that kind of thinking we have to do to really understand this unreality of it.
If we were to explain the fallacy of the snake in the rope, we too would adopt an explanation according to the condition of the bitten and shall modify our own explanations when the victim of snake bite changes to be another individual of a different temperament and belonging to a different class of culture.
So, and we know this analogy. Most of you know, I don't know, somebody who joined later, that there is a rope lying and there is dark and you think it's a snake. So when you think it's a snake, it depends on the person who is deluded, because किसी को लाल snake दिखाई देगा, किसी को काला, किसी को cobra दिखाई देगा, किसी को, so depending on, in the beginning, एकदम से किसी को बोलो it's not a snake, वो शायद मानेगा नहीं. We have to play along for a while, then bring the flashlight, show him, and then finally he'll say, oh my God, वो तो snake था ही नहीं. फिर जब snake था ही नहीं तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है क्या था? I think Swamiji is building this up because in the next verse, he uses a different language. उसने हिरण्यगर्भ को female बना दिया. Because हम लोग हमेशा he बोलते, then he called it Aditi. So he's just warning us that he's going to take different approaches.
In this mantra, we have just some hasty cross-references to the process of creation, which have been much more elaborately dealt with in other Upanishads.
So in other Upanishads, there are much more detail. And actually, Bhagavad Gita में भी आएगा creation का, because that question is there in all of our mind. How did this world come about and all that? And everybody wants to know that. So they do. But here they're saying they're just few verses they have used, but in some other Upanishads they have gone in detail.
Brahman, or the supreme reality in the samasti macrocosmic aspect, is Hiranyagarbha, and in the vyasti microcosmic aspect is the jiva. He who knows Brahman through both these aspects is a true knower of reality.
So this is the crux of the whole thing. So one is called macrocosm, one is microcosm, and in Sanskrit it's called samashti and vyashti. Samashti is the entire thing together. And we have, through this Upanishad, we learned that even the elements have this vyashti and samashti. Because when we say H2O, water, H2O is same everywhere. Right? The same way, what they're talking about is that Brahman, Vyashti may be or Samashti may be hai. So when it is all together, mind and intellect together, it's called Hiranyagarbha. And then when it is individual, it's called Jiva. That's the only difference. And if one who understands that the same is in both, and the way you can look at it, okay, you have this Mahasagar in front, I can look at it, over Pacific Ocean. उसमें भी वही H2O है, and मैं एक drop ले लूँ, उसमें भी H2O ही है. Because the thing is the same way Brahman is, if you say in totality is there, same Brahman, and within me also.
Adhya Purvam, prior to waters, the Hiranyagarbha, or the total mind, was born prior to the 5 elements. Here, water stands for all the 5 elements. Akash, space, is a grosser manifestation from the total mind.
So here Swamiji just gave a hint. Basically, in the verse, they have only used water before water, but water represents everything, all the 5 elements. And then the whole sequence is there, Akash, Vayu, Agni, फिर क्या है? अग्नि के बाद क्या है? Prithvi, you know. So that, and there are some Upanishads that they have complete sequences given. I think Meena ji was talking about it, that Panchikaran they call it. First Akash came, and then the next Vayu came. Vayu में आकाश भी होता है. And there is a whole proportion. किसी को interest है तो सब कुछ दिया हुआ है वो उपनिषद में, how this whole thing came about. And our five senses are connected with each. It's very scientific. And our organs of actions are connected with all these also. So there is a whole science behind it too. But here they have just, this word adhyabha purvam is saying water came, the elements came before, Hiranyagarbha came before the elements. That's what it's saying.
Tapasa, by penance or of knowledge, there are passages in the different Upanishads where the processes of creation are explained. One of them is the Supreme willed himself to be many, and many came or became. It is this theory that is echoed in this mantra.
See, this is we were talking about that, how that the God decided to become many because he was getting bored alone. So he just created many. And we are the samples of these many images. Anyway, so basically, idea is it started from one, and then we can, that seed form of a tree is a beautiful example. You have the entire thing in a seed. It is, and मैंने सुना है कि जितना बड़ा पेड़ होता है ना उसका seed उतना ही छोटा होता है. I don't know much about gardening, but the biggest tree, oak tree का बहुत छोटा होता है seed. उसमें सब कुछ है, and when it starts growing, from the seed only it comes, everything. You become a branch and what you call leaves and small branches and fruit and you name it. Same way he's saying the same Brahman manifest in the whole world. And we talked about it from the previous verse. He doesn't even have to go to Home Depot to get the material. The material is himself too. So it's like that spider.
Spider of the dream.
Dream. Yeah. Meena ji's favorite, which is a beautiful example that we go to sleep and our mind creates this, either most horrible nightmare or the most beautiful dream. And everything in between. True. Yeah.
In short, the mantra says that a seeker finally realizes the supreme reality, the eternal factor, both in the microcosm and in the macrocosm, Vyasti and Samasti. Brahman appears as Jiva through the conditioning of Maya.
So that's another way of explaining it. It says that there's an eternal factor in a microcosm and macrocosm, and Brahman appears as Jiva through the conditioning of Maya. So Maya is so many different ways to explain it. It's the Shakti of the Brahman. And the way I understand is that if you have a fire, there'll be heat and light. So if you have a Brahman, there'll always be its power, and that power manifests as this Brahman. This world, sorry. So everything that you see is Brahman only. And to develop that drishti, all that sadhana we were talking about is for that purpose only. If somebody can feel this oneness intuitively, then they don't even need to do anything. But we may understand it intellectually, but like our teacher used to always say, we don't behave that way. That means it has not become our experience. When we go out in the world, we may understand it intellectually as oneness, but we don't behave like that. So because it has not become our own yet. That's the whole journey.
When the conditionings drop off the Hiranyagarbha and Jiva, they become identical with the transcendental Brahman. This is verily that which you had inquired for.
To the final
conditionings
conclusion.
Of Maya.
Huh? I'm sorry?
When the conditionings of Maya.
Yes.
Okay.
Or conditioning, you can look at it many different ways. And, like we say that we are conditioned by mind, body, and intellect. I start thinking this is what I am. But when I drop it, and that, if you think about it, that's exactly what Lord Krishna is saying in that meditative thing. Hey, transcend these three things. you know. So all that fits together, you know, what they're trying to tell you.
Very nice.
Any question, comment? Anyone wants to add
When
anything?
we talk about Hirangarbha, we're talking about the creation, also the world, how it, because he says that came before all the elements came. So
Right.
that was like in the seed form, from where the total mind, and the seed form is the total mind. Like we create our world from our single mind, and that is, Vyasti. And Smashti is from the total mind, and total mind is God, what we are talking about, the Lord.
Yes.
From there, and then the elements came along, and that it's like the material, from which the seed came out. I mean, to me, it seemed like the material then had to there to come out, to manifest. And to manifest all those, 5 elements came along, and then it manifested to, and only those 5 elements created everything.
Correct.
the whole world.
Exactly. It's like, even from the scientific perspective, if you go back to the elements, I don't know that much, there are more scientists sitting over here in this class, so they know. But if you start going back to the atom,
Yeah.
you can just go back to then some people will say that originally they were just hydrogen or something. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody, but उससे फिर बाकी elements बने और वगैरह वगैरह, right? It's a combination of something, or it broke into something, originally तो वो एक दो ही चीजें होती है,
Right.
है ना? So that's what it is. That if you keep going backwards, you will go towards oneness. I think that's the point I'm trying to say.
Right. Yeah.
It's a backward journey. Yeah. So basically, everything is made up of 5 elements, the way in our Vedanta it says, because, हर एक चीज में वही है ना. Whatever we pick, there is air, there is water, there is Prithvi, there is Akash is everywhere. And Agni is also in all of it. Just manifest when the time comes. Any other point, question before I go to the next verse? Okay, then I can go to the next one. So next one is actually the same idea said in different way. That's all it is. Just keep that in mind. Verse 7. And that's why Swami Ji ने already बहुत mentally सबको prepare कर दिया कि वो एक ही बात बोलेंगे 2 different ढंग से, but बात एक ही है. Keep that in mind. या प्राणेन संभवति अदितिर्देवतामयी गुहां प्रविश्य तिष्ठन्तिं या भूतेर्भिर्यव्यजायत ऐतद वैतद. So ऐतद वैतद अभी काफी देर चलने वाला है. This is that. Because that's what Nachiketa had asked. What is that factor? That's why I keep answering it. So here, या is, it's किसी फीमेल को संबोधित करते हैं तो या बोलते हैं. मेरे को संस्कृत बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं आती, but यह is for male and या is for women. So Tejomayanand ji said all the women should feel very happy because सारे time हम वो ही बोलते हैं. तो ये उपनिषद ने भी बराबर कर दिया सबको. Female, या pranena, along with the pranas. Sambhavati. That whole famous verse is there. Sambhavami yuge yuge means it is to be born, manifest. Okay. So अभी उसको प्राण शक्ति बोल दिया. जो हिरण्य गर्भ से एक था ज्ञान शक्ति, total mind and intellect, right? But for the world to be created, you need pran shakti also. So that's why there is a pran shakti. See how smart they are. So the word aditi, I learned when I was doing this, the detail, because when you just read it, you don't know. Aditi means the enjoyer. So it seems the dhatu is other. So when you say other means to enjoy, or adi is enjoy. Actually, it means to eat, but when eat meaning, eating from all five senses or enjoying or experiencing. That's another word you can say. Devata Mayi is soul of the Devatas. So here when they talk about Devatas, they are talking about the power behind our five senses. And then we have discussed that we cannot see without Surya Devata. We cannot taste without Varun Devta. So the power behind each thing is ko Devta bola. So ye jo Aditi has as though come like a pranas and come, and we'll see when we open up this verse, but these are just word meanings right now. Devata Mai, soul of the Devta, power behind the Devta, you can say. Guham, that word has come many times, means the cave of the heart. Means, heart here, don't do the pumping heart that we have. That's not the heart they're talking about. Spiritual heart. Basically that essence of us, you can call it. Pravishya is having entered. And now remember, entered means not like you enter a house. Ki baad mein enter kiya. No, it was within it only. But they have to use these words, otherwise they're hard to explain the whole thing. Tishtanti, abides therein. Tishtanti actually मतलब बैठ जाना. Means वहाँ पर विराजमान है. हिंदी का word बहुत अच्छा लगता है. भगवान हमारे अंदर विराजमान है. हम लोग ऐसे बोलते हैं ना. विराजमान समझो इसको. Tishtanti. Ya is who, but addressing a female. Bhute bhihi, with the five elements. So basically he's saying, five elements में भी वो प्राण शक्ति है. वो प्राण शक्ति अदिति है, और अदिति हिरण्य गर्भ से आई. हिरण्य गर्भ and Aditi is the same thing over here. Just try to remember that. Vyajayatah was born, as though it is born. So reality means, there's no birth, no death, but as though it is born from our perspective. Etat is this, is where is verily, tat is that we know. Etat vaitat. So what are they saying over here? So Tejomayanji explained this, because this is a little bit, it can get very confusing if some saint and sages don't explain to us. And he refers to Shankaracharya. So there is a whole Guru Parampara which explains us this, what it is. It's the same idea, exact thing. That whatever they use the word Hiranyagarbha, we kind of got the picture now, Hiranyagarbha, right? Same entity, that Hiranyagarbha, and that seed form is called Aditi over here. That's all. It's a female. And I was thinking about it. There are some saints and sages which worship the Divine Mother. Joe is here, and in Ramakrishna Paramhans worship Divine Mother. Yogananda also is Divine Mother, because they look at the Brahman as a female energy coming through Hiranyagarbha. I mean, when it comes through. When you talk about Brahman, it has no gender. But, female energy of creation. Maya is also looked at as a female energy. So you can catch it either way you want. It does not matter, But, some people find that more appealing probably. So he was just, I already told you that Tejonaji was joking that women should be very happy because they're making it a female now over here. So the Aditi is the one who manifested. So here they're just emphasizing the Prana Shakti, because he was talking about that when Hiranyagarbha was total mind and intellect, so there's more emphasis on total intellect. But when you're talking about Aditi, you're talking about the Prana Shakti over here. And Prana Shakti, according to him, is Kriya Pradhan. Okay, one is a Gyan Pradhan, my total mind and intellect, Hiranyagarbha. But this is called Kriya Pradhan because action is very important for us. Right? When we are born, we have to do action, and that's where that Shakti of Prana is the one that we use it for action. That's why it's calling it Prana Shakti. So Tejo Mehanaji asked a question. After all, what is that Paramatma? It has a power to create, power of action. So that means knowledge and action both are important for this final manifestation. They're just taking the approach of action through pranas. That's what they're doing in there. So there is a Gyan, Kriya, and Ichha Shakti. And that is the different powers of that Brahman. All three Shaktis are power, just like heat and light. So ये सब कुछ माया में आ जाता है, Gyan, Kriya, Ichha, Shakti. So then what he's saying that this Aditi is Sarva Devata Mahi, because she is the nature of the Devata, basically a boss of the Devata boldo. That's the word that will fit here very nicely. That Aditi is the boss of all the Devatas. And the other word they have used over is soul of all the Devatas, means the boss only, means, the power behind. Because we have different faculties in our bodies, of those 5 sense organs. And Aditi is the boss of all of them, actually. Because first it comes the subtle power, and then behind that is that unmanifested power of Aditi. Because the other point is that the world is governed by the law of nature, forces of nature. And these forces of nature are presided over by the different devatas, you can call it. Right? You have these 5 elements, and each हर एक का एक देवता बनाया हुआ है, कि एक department बनाया हुआ है. And if you want something from that department, you got to pray to that department. या तो तुम सीधा ब्राह्मण के पास पहुंच जाओ, फिर तुमको सब कुछ मिल जाएगा. Some people take that indirect approach, okay? So उनके लिए. So as we saw from the last verse, that Hiranyagarbha manifested as a created world, and here they are just saying that Aditi as a Pran Shakti has manifested. Both are the same thing. And that includes our sense organ of action, and their functions and everything. And all the Devta that are presiding over it, all that come under Aditi. And then we already talked about it, that the Aditi is that to enjoy. It means to eat, actually. Literal meaning is to eat and enjoy. But over here, what they mean by that is, finally the Hiranyagarbha is the one that is experiencing everything through us. That story about that, that one of the Western philosophers said, God wanted to play, so he created many people. God is the one who's enjoying. And that reminds me that I think in Mahabharata they showed one scene when Lord Krishna is, I think, talking to someone. I'm trying to think who. It could be Gandhari. That he says that जिसके साथ भी जो कुछ भी हुआ ना, वो सब मैंने experience किया है. Whether it was bad or good, everything I have experienced, including Duryodhan when he was lying over there with a wound on his thighs, dying. वो भी मैंने experience किया है. So, because everything has come from that Hiranyagarbha, so he becomes the ultimate experiencer, and he's basically saying, And then the other point over here is Pravishya Tishtanti. That we have already seen that in the previous one. That the same Brahman through the Aditi is present in everybody. But here they are saying it entered everybody, but actually the basic idea is it's present everybody. Okay. So from individual standpoint and total standpoint, the both is the same. That's another point that we already saw, that in last verse also Swamiji mentioned that macrocosm and microcosm is the same. And then Tejomanaji reminded us, we have not come to that chapter yet in Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 8, in the last verse of chapter 8, he talked about Bhokta Sarva Loka Maheshwara, that ultimate Sarva Loka Maheshwara, that God is the Bhokta, he is the enjoyer of everything. They use the word enjoyer, but experiencer is the right word probably. So Tejomanaji was reminding everybody that when our drishti becomes vyapak, means when our drishti becomes open-minded and we see everything together, but becomes large, pervading, large-hearted, you can call it, whichever word you want to use, that's when you understand the Hiranyagarbha and Paramatma. That he is individually here in my body, and that's why he is the ultimate enjoyer. And he's also there in the totality. So he alone is worshipped by everybody. So whoever worships even the other devatas, technically he is worshipping that higher self only. Okay. So sometimes somebody might say middleman की क्या जरूरत है, सीधा वहीं पहुंचो ना ऊपर. Some people might say that. So the conclusion is Paramatma alone is the Jiva, Ishwar, or the Hiranyagarbha, all gods, different 5 elements and the devatas of it, and that's what we have to realize, and once we realize, we become free. That's the whole idea about this verse. It's a little complicated. I tried my best, but any comment or question?
They're saying here Savikalpa and Nirvikalpa. So either you can go to Savikalpa to, the form, you worship the form, you're really worshipping the one alone.
Right. Right. And I think the Ramakrishna Paramhans is a perfect example. Even though he was like a realized soul, he continued to worship the Devi. Because as long as we are in the body, we need some symbol, right?
Yes.
It's more joyful. To meditate upon Nirguna is very difficult also.
Yeah.
But intellectually, if we understand it's the same, then we can pick. इसीलिए इंडिया में बोलते हैं ना इतने सारी वैरायटी है, जो चाहिए वो ले लो.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was thinking when we talked about creation and we talked about Brahma and Saraswati. So Saraswati is really the power of Brahma. Can we say that?
Absolutely, because see, if you go back, okay, that's a very interesting, and let's talk about that. So there is one Brahman, but to manifest the world, what do we need? We need knowledge and creating power. That's Brahmaji. But Brahmaji ki Shakti is knowledge, because Saraswati is a Devi of knowledge. And then to maintain, you need money.
Yeah.
So maintenance is Vishnu Bhagwan ka department hai. So Vishnu Bhagwan ki consort kaun hai? Lakshmi Devi.
Lakshmi. Yeah,
all the wealth. How much science is there?
Yeah, all powers are women.
Yes. Power, true. And then to annihilate, you need Shakti. And तभी दुर्गा को शक्ति बोला गया ना.
Yes.
Because you need tremendous power to recreate. So पहले सब कुछ destroy करना पड़ता है. So her consort is Shakti. So there is knowledge, there is the wealth, and there is Shakti. That is the Trinity. So that's without Parvati, Shiv is Shava, they say, because without Shakti a man cannot do anything.
Yeah.
But we cannot get confused. They are one actually. That's why they have the Earth and Narishwar. It's one, but if divide it into two, then you can say it that way.
Yeah.
Actually, they are one.
Then you can represent the world that we see with the Shakti. Otherwise, it's one and not anything.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and then also we have discussed this in the past that truly speaking, you cannot separate the Shakti from the person.
Yeah.
Like a dance from a dancer, you cannot separate it. It can manifest as some creation, but वो शक्ति हमेशा रहेगी उसमें.
Did Brahma create Saraswati to help him out?
No. See, there are all kinds of Puranic stories and also we can't go into that. If you understand this principle, then you will understand that Brahmaji, to create, we need knowledge, and she represents knowledge. Because even in this particular Kathoupanishad, he talked about, remember that Brahmaji had to do tapas.
Yes.
So tapas by doing the tapas, he got the knowledge. Hey, what am I supposed to do now? But if you have to give it a form, then they gave a form which represents knowledge. If you look at Saraswati, what is she doing? She's holding a veena, she's holding a mala, japa mala in one hand, she's holding Vedas into other hand. She's wearing a white sari, pure, because knowledge is, purity and things like, it's all symbolism is there.
Yeah.
And if you see, Lakshmi ji, उनको पूरा गोल्ड से लगाया हुआ है, इतना बड़ा मुकुट और सब कुछ गोल्ड, हाथ में 2 बड़े-बड़े घड़े दे दिए, उसमें से पैसे गिर रहे हैं. It's all symbolism. And when you talk Durga, when you're showing power, तो उसके 10 हाथ दिखा दिए उसमें, हर एक में weapon. कोई भी चीज को डिस्ट्रॉय कर सकती हैं वो, और उनका वो काली रूप ले लिया तो बस छुट्टी. महा डिस्ट्रक्शन. So I find it extremely scientific the way they did it. If we try more and more we understand, we get so much respect for all the Rishi Munis to do that.
Respect and enjoy knowing it. It's beautiful.
Yeah. There's so much science in the Trinity also.
Yeah.
So when you say that created, basically, go back to the word manifestation. There is one Brahman.
Yes.
It has the power to create. So then the power came as 3 different powers.
Yes.
And then 3 different power got split further because, you need, like, किसी घर चलाने के लिए, the best घर is when husband, wife both are there, right? Otherwise it's a trouble. So that's how you can look at it whichever way you want. Facilitating the creation. So you kept dividing further. फिर वो दूसरे डिपार्टमेंट्स बन गए. आफ्टर ब्रह्मा विष्णु महेश यू हैव ऑल द 5 एलिमेंट्स. उनके देवता आ गए फिर, वरुण देवता एंड सूर्य देवता एंड अग्नि देवता. बट इफ अग्नि, जैसे देयर इज अ पौराणिक स्टोरी दैट अग्नि को अभिमान हो गया कि भाई ये आई एम सो ग्रेट. देन Brahman had to step in and say, hello, you cannot do anything yourself without power of Brahman.
But all the 5 elements, because of the grass, remember? Burn,
yeah. So the Brahman came in the form of a yaksha and said, hey, burn this grass. And all 5 of them could not do anything. Neither burn it, nor uda nahi sake usko. That story is great, just to tell you that don't have an ego about, hey, my intelligence, my this, my that. Everything is coming from Brahman only. Yeah. True. I don't know. Did that answer your question, Shireen?
Yeah, sort of. I don't know. I was reading somewhere that he created Saraswati to help him out.
See, if you think about it,
stories, I don't know.
There are many stories, and follow that same principle that Swamiji was saying, to appeal to one particular kind of students. Maybe that story will be good. Hey, I want to create something and I need knowledge. So then I have to first have knowledge, and she symbolizes that. So you can look at it that way. Yeah, in some Puranic story, Saraswati is like a daughter of Brahmaji, and another one, she's a consort. Sounds like strange, but both of them you can justify it different ways. But in the end, it doesn't matter, because what they are saying is that the power is coming from that Brahman and just split into 3. Further splitting. How you want to split, that's up to you. That's all they're saying.
Okay.
Any other point? We can close and then we have some open discussion in the next 20 minutes or so. We can do that. So let's close this. We'll read it next time. It's not just few paragraphs, but it's already 12:30. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.